Hi, my name is Kay Petrie and this is my yoga playground. So today we are going to look at quad stretches. Whether we are sitting all day at a desk or if we're quite physically active, chances are we have tight quads and tight hip flexors. So today we're going to focus on stretching out these quads. We're going to begin by first warming up with a little bit of a dynamic warm-up before we get into some deeper stretches. Always good to get some blood flowing in these muscles before we actually get into those deeper stretches. So we'll start standing at the long edge of our mat, toes out, heels in. Let's bring the tailbone down, standing up nice and tall, and let's goal post our arms. Inhaling, fingertips together. Exhaling, let's squat down, bringing the elbows into the side. And we're just going to flow here, inhaling as we come up, exhaling, coming down. And this is just a really nice flow to warm up the larger parts of our body. So hip flexors, those quads, hamstrings, a lot of our lower body. And with the arm movements here, we're warming up our back, our shoulders. Flowing, we inhale as we rise, and we exhale as we sink down. No worries how far we're going down here. Perhaps we're sitting up on a high bar stool today, or maybe we're sinking down into a comfy chair. We're just getting started. When we're flowing through this, taking care to keep the spine extended and long, the heart up, reaching through the crown of our head. Let's do 2 more here. And the next time we're up, moving into our sun pose, arms to our sides, palms up, shoulders back and down, flowing with a similar flow. Finding the earth under our feet on the inhale, palms together overhead. Exhaling, hinging from the hips, leading through the heart. Let's bring the hands together on the floor, maybe scoop them, and then reverse that swan dive, coming all the way up, straightening out the legs. Exhaling, coming down. Inhaling, coming up. Similar movements. A little bit of different movement here in our shoulders and our back. Still warming up those quads, those hamstrings. Trying to have even weight in each leg, making sure that we're fully grounded and that the weight is not going all to the right or all to the left. Keeping things balanced. Let's do 3 more. Coming back up, hands to our hips and stepping up to the top of our mats. We're going to come down to the floor for some lunges. So inhaling, palms together overhead, exhaling, forward fold. And coming down onto our knees for a moment. We can grab a block if we need to, or some pillows to put underneath our knees. And because we're working more on a stretch today than strength, we're going to choose a kneeling lunge. Stepping forward with the right foot, and then working the knee back, keeping our hips squared to the front of the mat. We can keep fingertips to the ground. We can also place blocks here if we wish for our hands, or bring our hands to our quad, avoiding the knee. Lunging forward, let's make sure that the knee is in line with the big toe or somewhere with the middle toes. We lift up through the heart on the inhale, exhaling, perhaps lunging forward a little bit more. Feeling it in that back quad. And in that right hip flexor as well. We're hanging out here for a few breaths. If it's too intense, just take it back a little bit. And then bring it forward again. Maybe just flowing back and forth until we get to that spot where we can hold. If we want to take this a little bit further, we can come into crescent lunge. Let's extend through the spine, shoulders back and down, but reaching up, pinkies in, palms towards each other. One more breath. Exhaling, let's bring fingertips to the ground and we're going to switch sides. Left foot forward this time. Remembering the block is there if we need to. Finding our ground, our balance, bringing ourselves where we need to. So we can keep this more into a runner's lunge where the fingertips are to the floor or on some blocks. Or we can walk the hand up. If we're placing our hand on our quad, let's avoid the knee. Always taking care of our joints as we practice yoga. We're hard enough on them in other aspects of our life. If we take a look at our hips right now, let's make sure that they're facing the short edge of our mat. So taking care that we're not twisted more in one direction or the other. And then if we wish, coming into the crescent lunge option. We'll notice that if we choose to do this with the back knee raised, we're working more on our strength and balance than anything. If we keep the knee down, we're really focusing on the stretch in this pose. On the next exhale, we can come down. Let's bring the left foot back. And let's just bring the glutes to our heels for a moment before we move into our next stretch. Taking a few breaths. For the next sequence, I encourage you to have a strap if you need to. We're going to come into a little bit of a deeper quad stretch. So this time, again, bringing that right foot forward, taking the left knee back. Now this is somewhere where you may need a wall or something beside you if you want to hold on to. We're going to take the left hand now and reach back for our ankle or foot. Let's avoid the toes. When we're doing this, we're really going to get that deep stretch in the left quad. Now this is where the towel, strap, necktie, whatever you have, comes in handy. If we're not quite there yet in reaching the ankle or the foot, we can wrap a strap around the ankle and then create length. So we can create length with that. Breathing through this, focusing, bringing your gaze forward. And then on the exhale, letting go. Perhaps stretching back a little bit and then switching sides. Stepping back with the right, stepping forward with the left. Bringing ourselves into position. Finding that place to hold on to if we need to. Even just a block beside us might help. And then reaching back with the right hand this time for for the right ankle or foot. So being very active in other sports, even though I'm a yoga teacher, I'm still tight. So a strap could come in handy for me here as well. Depends on the day. We're breathing through it. We're making sure that we're not pushing ourselves to a point of injury. We're going to our own edge. And that edge is going to change as time progresses. Let's release, let go. Bring the left foot back this time, and let's bring our glutes down to our heels one more time. Preparing for camel pose. All of these poses focus on our quads. In camel pose, coming up onto our knees, placing a towel or anything if we need to for protection under our knees. Taking the hands, we can make fists if we wish, or just bring the hands to our sacrum, or fists, wherever we are, working the elbows towards each other. Opening the heart and the shoulders come back and down. Once here, and our knees are bone hip width apart, let's push forward through the hips. And really open up the heart, gazing up to where the wall would meet the ceiling if that's comfortable for our necks. Feeling that in our hip flexors and our quads. This is a modified camel pose. If we want to take camel pose a little bit further, remembering to honor our bodies, we can take one hand, bring it back to the heel, and the other hand back to the other heel. If we've chosen to do this, let's not bring the bum back. Let's keep those hips pushing forward, shoulders back and down, heart open. Wherever we are, coming back up. And let's give our back a little rest because that's a bit of a back bend. Bringing our glutes down to our heels, coming into a child's pose for a moment. And perhaps just gently rocking those hips side to side while we're here. And bringing ourselves back up. Following with a modified hero's pose. Full hero's pose, extremely hard on the knees. Modified hero's pose, not so much. I encourage you here, if you need to place a towel or blanket behind the knees and also underneath the knees. As well, if we need something behind us, we can have a chair or something to grab onto if we wish. Okay. Coming into hero's pose, we're on our knees, we bring the glutes down towards the heels. And for modified heroes, simply coming back, we can make fists if we wish, or point the fingertips back towards the back of our mat. Opening up the heart, opening up the shoulders. Just resting here. In full hero's pose, we're invited to come all the way back, even with the forearms to the ground, or all the way back with our back to the ground. Extremely hard on our joints. So I encourage you to just do this for today. Focusing on the quad stretch. Sinking into the pose. On our next inhale, coming up, bringing our hands to our quads. And if we want to, coming back into another child's pose for a moment. Walking our hands up. And this time moving into a modified bow pose. We'll do side bow. So facing the long edge of our mat on our sides, we can bring the arm down, the head onto our arms for the moment, just to position ourselves in a straight line. And then reaching back, grabbing onto the left shin this time, and then pulling back. We'll do one side at a time. Feeling a very deep quad stretch here. We want to keep keeping our knee in line with our hip bone, taking care to not really wrench our leg and bring the knee all the way up, keeping our joints in alignment. This is another one where we can use a strap around our ankle and create length with that strap if we're not quite there in reaching the foot or ankle yet. On the next exhale, releasing and switching sides. So we can come back to seated, or you can just roll over if you wish, up to you. And coming into this quad stretch, the bow pose, modified bow pose, on our other side now, reaching for the right shin and pulling back, pulling the heel towards the glute. It's a great place to close the eyes. Focus in the in-breath, on the in-breath and on the out-breath. I strongly encourage you to use props when needed. There's nothing wrong with props. Even the most experienced yogis, if they know what's good for them, are going to use props. On the next exhale, letting go. Really feeling those quads right now. And coming back up onto our knees, facing the front of our mat. And this one we may want our strap again. Let's bring our hands to the ground. Coming into a pigeon pose to begin with, taking the right knee to the right wrist and walking the left knee back. Awesome. We're going to stay tall for this one, queen pigeon. Great place to use a block if we need it to help us create length in our body, or even a chair out in front of us that we can hold on to. We're going to come into a deep quad stretch on the left side now, reaching back for our ankle or foot, keeping the hips pointed forward. In time, if we want to go any further, we can reach that right arm all the way up to the sky, working on our balance at the same time. Lifting up through the heart, extending our spine, taking care not to sink into our lower backs here. On our next exhale, letting go and switching sides. So let's bring the right leg back, bringing the left knee this time up towards the left wrist, walking the right knee back if we need to. Finding that length in our spine, using a block if we need to. Nice and tall. Preparing ourselves, taking a breath. And then reaching back for the ankle. On the inhale, lifting. On the exhale, perhaps sinking into the pose. Trying that a few times. One more breath. And on the exhale, letting go, Let's bring the block out of the way if we've used it. And finally giving ourselves a break here after that extensive quad stretch session. So even though we're doing quad stretches, this is still yoga. We're focusing on our breath as we're working through these poses, living in the moment while we're on our mat. Let's bring our hands together to our hearts and bow to each other. Namaste. My name is Kay Petrie, and this is my yoga playground.